Welcome into the Football Kingdom podcast. Week 1 is in the books and it was wild and packed full of stories. Tyler Mallon is here with me. I am Brandon Johnson. So let's go ahead and jump into some of the matchups for week 1. The Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs hosted the Lions to open the season on Thursday night, and they went into it without their best receiver in Travis Kelce, who had hyperextended his knee in practice a few days before, and Chris Jones, who was still holding out and decided to watch the game from a suite that night. Now, most of the country felt pretty good about the Kansas City Chiefs coming out with a victory, and they ended up losing by a score of 21-20. Tyler, what happened to the Chiefs?
Lots of drops. Lots of mistakes. Let's put it that way. Just overall as a team, lot of mistake, lot of self-inflicted wounds here. Okay, so biggest story here was Kadarius Toney with 4 drops. I think he had 5 targets and no catches, or maybe it was 1 catch, or I don't really know. But
yeah, it was he had -1 yards rushing or receiving. I can't remember which, but he had 0 yards total.
Right.
He was horrendous.
Yeah, his first catch, attempted catch, I should say, his first highlight was the interception. So
you cannot throw a better pass than Patrick Mahomes threw right there.
Literally in both his hands. And I don't even know. I've watched that clip so many times, and I'm like, I don't understand what happened. It just flies out of his hands. And of course, those types of passes go right into the defender, and not really Mahomes' fault there. It's pretty much a perfect pass for a decent receiver in Kadarius Toney. And that's where I get it's a team, self-inflicted wounds here, because even what was it? I think it was, by Sunday, or possibly Saturday, Andy Reid had given an interview where he was like, yeah, that's on me, rushing Kadarius Toney back. And that's what I was saying all of Thursday and Friday. I'm like, this is
I get it.
Reid,
I mean, I get it to a certain extent, but okay, he was injured. He didn't do training camp. He didn't play in the preseason, but his job is to catch passes, and I don't think that being injured and sitting around means that you forgot how to catch a football. This wasn't like we were asking him to make circus catches. These were,
right,
for the most part, hitting him right in the hands. And and I know we're singling out Kadarius Toney, but as a whole, the team, I believe, had 9 drops. I was never actually able to find an official stat, but Twitter told me 9 drops, and you should always trust Twitter. But it's just frustrating because you look at the game, and overall, Patrick Mahomes played well. He had, 226 yards and 2 touchdowns and a pick, and that's a pretty good day. And the defense gave up 14 points overall. If your team is going to score 20 points, if your defense is only going to give up 14 points and Patrick Mahomes is your quarterback, you feel pretty good that you're going to come out of that game with a win. And it just didn't happen. And it falls on the receivers for me.
Yeah, and the defense kind of played their part without Chris Jones. They kept cutting to him and his 2 cronies that he's got on either side of him.
His henchmen.
Yeah. And honestly, I think team-wise, they played a fairly decent game, because when you and I talked about the game, the next day we were like, I was like, well, they kind of went away from the run, and you're like, they kind of had a pretty successful running day. They just, with the, receivers dropping so many passes, it just kills the rest of the drive. So that really, it harkens back to those drops, and just not, and again, we're going to say this a lot, but it's week 1. It's not going to define anybody. The thing with me is, though, like this, it doesn't define your season, but to me, this is kind of a big loss because it's, your home. It's the season opener. You just won the Super Bowl, so you've got home field advantage. You're hanging banners. You're celebrating. You're still the same team. You still have, the best player in the league, and you lose here at home in Arrowhead of all places to the Lions by 1 point. That to me it is that kind of puts it into this is kind of a big loss. They should have absolutely won this game. Even though it's like, yeah, it's still week 1, but I still feel like they should have won. Is my point. Like this is a game they should have absolutely been 1-0 on.
Yeah, absolutely. And really, we'll get into it a little bit, but I was breathing a pretty big sigh of relief knowing that other important teams also started their season 0-1. Like I said, we'll get into that in a minute, but I want to touch on Chris Jones. So obviously, Chris Jones has been holding out. He's been trying to get an extension from the Chiefs, and he's doubled down. Hey, I'm going to miss games, and he missed week 1. And the defensive line again looked pretty good, but it comes out this week that the holdout's over. The Chiefs and Chris Jones have agreed to a new deal. And I'm looking at it. I'm going to read you a tweet from Spot Track. So
I got it
Chris,
open.
Chris Jones started 2023 with 21.25 million to be earned. So that's 20 million base plus 1.25 in incentives. He now, with his new deal, carries a 16.4 net base, factoring the 2.1 lost due to his fines, with 6.75 more possible to earn. All for a chance for him to earn 1.8 more this year. He says he ends the tweet with, "We've had better holdouts," and
Yeah.
that's exactly Chris Jones lost. And if I'm Chris Jones, I'm saying to the Katz brothers, I'm done. I'm done with
You're
you.
fired.
You're done. Get yourself a better agent because you absolutely lost. The holdout was pointless because there's no way that he's going to hit these incentives. He's going to need to get 15 sacks to earn,
Hmm.
and he's going to need to win Defensive Player of the Year. Not going to happen. He's already behind. A Super Bowl appearance and a Super Bowl victory are his incentives.
Right.
What
I mean,
are you doing?
yeah, he talks such a big game too about, I can go to week 6 or week 8 or whatever. And now this is week 2 and he did all that to maybe get an extra 1 million.
Yeah,
Like, what are we doing? What was
makes
the point of
no
that?
sense. So this deal to me read as Chris Jones. It probably killed Chris Jones to sit on the sideline or sit in that suite and have to watch his team. Not have to
Yeah,
watch
he
his team. He
looked
chose to.
awkward.
But and
He
I
looked,
think
yeah,
this
antsy.
was all right. I got to get back on the field and let's do what we got to do. And to me, this is hey, get back in the locker room, get back with the team. You can walk in free agency next year and get your money. I think this is Chris Jones' last year with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, that's the other part. Nobody's really talked about the fact that it's just a 1 year. That I did not expect. I am not an expert on these contract deals or contracts in general in the NFL or honestly in any sport, but that one is very interesting to me. Like, what does his future hold now? Because all the Nick Bosa's deal was like 3 years, and that's a part of this that I still don't really know how to process. Of
I
like, oh,
think,
just a 1 year extension, and then he's
yeah,
probably gonna go bye bye.
not even an extension, a 1 year restructure.
Right.
He's gonna go play for the Houston Texans or whoever next year. He's gonna sign 3 for 30 million a year, 70
Right.
guaranteed or something like that. That's what I would be shocked because the Chiefs have shown that they're tough negotiators and they're not gonna bow to you. So they did it with Tyreek Hill and they have now done it with Chris Jones, and they also have other players that they want to sign with Creed Humphrey and L'Jarius Sneed and Trey Smith. They want to make sure that they're spreading their money in a smart way. And I just don't know if doing that with a guy that's on the wrong side of 30 makes sense. And I think that's where the Chiefs were. But I'm glad that he's back in the building. It sounds like Travis Kelsey should be ready to go against the Jaguars, but it's a big week. You definitely don't want to start your season 0-2 if you're the Chiefs. But obviously, that wasn't the only thing that was going on this weekend. Let's take a look at some games that went on Sunday. And Bengals Browns. There's a stat that the Browns were, what was it, 5-1 against the Bengals in their last 6, and they made it 6-1 on Sunday, beating the Cincinnati Bengals 24-3. And Joe Burrow uh, looked pretty bad. Let's just say it. He threw for 82 yards and only played 3 quarters.
He
And
looked awful.
yeah, I don't know again if this was a product of him being out and having to shake off rust, but he came out and it was just bad.
Yeah, he had he had 7. Well, the Bengals had 7 3-and-outs in a row, like at the beginning of the game. I don't know what it is. He cannot beat the Browns. He's 1-5 all time. He's never won, in Cleveland, I believe. I don't know what's going on there. But yeah, what? To be fair, though, I mean this. Not to be fair. This was one of the rain games of the weekend.
Oh,
One
give
of
me a
3.
break. Give me a break.
Well, listen, listen. Yeah, I mean the other team scored 26 points first of all,
Exactly.
and the Joe Burrow led Bengals could only muster 3.
Yeah.
Now again, he missed all of, the off season with his calf. But if he's ready to go, he's ready to go. And
Again,
they looked so off time.
Yeah.
He's overthrowing people.
If he wasn't ready, he shouldn't have been in there. And
Sure.
rain, no rain, you're an NFL quarterback. You're regarded as one of the top 3 NFL quarterbacks in the league. If you can't play in the rain, you should go home.
Yeah, it was 10-0 at half. So I mean, both teams were struggling. Bengals had 6 total first downs. T. Higgins had 8 targets with 0 catches. It was just a nightmare of a Bengals game. As bad as like the Chiefs game with like, nobody can catch a ball. Like the Bengals had a heck of a time. And that was helped by Myles Garrett just destroying, their O-line. He was just cooking Orlando Brown, old friend alert of the Chiefs, where he's just like, Myles could not get could just do whatever he wanted in the backfield. But yeah, Deshaun Watson though, like, looked pretty sloppy as well. As much as they, had 24 points of it all, but he can still run. He's still got a lot, like he still has that burst of speed. But he's still overthrowing. Got no timing with his wide receivers, and it's just like just run the ball. Give the ball to Nick Chubb. That this guy was the MVP of this game. So, yeah, we'll see what both of these teams can do moving forward. But
It'll be
not a whole lot to glean here.
Not to get ahead of ourselves, but the Bengals are going to be playing the Ravens next week, so not going to be an easy bounce back game for them. But let's move on to Dolphins Chargers. Dolphins Chargers was, kind of one of my games of the week. I have an up and coming offense with Tua and Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. You have the Chargers, who I really love their roster. Justin Herbert, they have a lot to prove. And this was the Tua and Tyreek Hill game. Tyreek Hill had 2 touchdowns and 215 yards, and Tua had 466 passing yards. Tyler, the Dolphins came out on top.
Yeah, I don't know if this is a Charger gonna Charger game, but I feel like it probably was. Um,
They were on top late, so yeah.
right. Yeah, Tua took no sacks, even without Teron Armstead. Um, yeah, this is just a. I mean, honestly though, like this is kind of what we talked about. Like Tua, he stays healthy. The dude is really good.
The sky is the
The
limit for them when
Yeah,
he's on
the
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 field.
the touch that he has on his passes, like that last touchdown, this Tyreek's second touchdown, where he just threw it perfect in the perfect spot for Tyreek to catch. Just over the defender, like the perfect window. That kind of talent, like these guys are going to be
Yeah.
really good this year.
Yeah, you've already got people talking about Tyreek Hill as MVP, and I think that's a little bit premature, but Tyreek Hill is phenomenal. So, and any day that the Chargers lose is a good day in Chiefs Kingdom.
Yeah, that's one of those games we were talking about after the Chiefs lose.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
49ers and Steelers. 49ers, obviously they traded Trey Lance and doubled down on bringing in Brock Purdy, and Brock Purdy, honestly, he looked pretty good. 220 yards, 2 touchdowns. Pretty he had pretty good control of the offense. Now, if you're looking at the Steelers, a lot of people had the Steelers kind of taking a step forward this year, and it was a bad day. It was a bad day for the Steelers. Kenny Pickett was awful, and the 49ers just had their way.
Yeah, I need to start tracking this, but there's been a lot of people who were saying the Steelers are going to be making the playoffs and all this, and I'm like, get out of here with that stuff.
They 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 have the Steelers winning 11 games this season.
Right.
No way.
Yeah, they just got destroyed at home. Now, as we said, the Niners are probably the best team in the NFC, next to the Eagles. But I mean, honestly, Brock Purdy played a perfect game. And that was actually something we said in the last episode where I'm like, I don't honestly know if he's the guy. Like, I simply just don't know if, Mr. Irrelevant is your starter. And they traded Trey Lance and the whole thing. And now I'm like, okay, I get it. Like, you
Yeah.
don't have to convince me. I watched a lot of that game, and my goodness, the dude is just, yeah, I mean, he literally played a perfect game. That's not going to happen, but, not every time. But honestly, what he looked like at the end of last year, I mean, geez, I think he's just perfectly fit for that offense.
Yeah, I agree. I'm with you on Brock Purdy. I was a little bit confused just because we have a significantly small sample size of Purdy. We have obviously really no film on Trey Lance, but I thought just kind of throwing in the towel on Trey Lance was odd. But yeah, yesterday watching that, um, I was sold. I'm like, okay, Brock Purdy's the guy. But
Yeah, and
yeah,
um, Christian McCaffrey is still a beast, but he's so smart. Okay, the guy he's like the perfect running back. Like he has so much power to be just a truck guys, to be just a downhill runner. But just watching him like see guys and make them miss like 5 yards out is incredibly impressive. Now again, I don't know what the Steelers got going on quite yet, week one, but he's making guys look foolish. And it's the things that I want to see. Like sitting on your couch, you're like, oh, you should have done that and do this, and that he's just doing it. He's making it look so easy. That's very dangerous. Of course, he's always the guy they talk about, injuries or whatever. But I mean, these guys, and of course, Brandon Ayuk, 5 for 5, 76 yards, a touchdown at halftime. Dude had himself a day. Of course, with Purdy just being on fire. But yeah, this was like a blowout.
oh yeah. Ram, or excuse me. Let's do Packers Bears. Packers Bears. The battle of young quarterbacks with Jordan Love taking over the helm from Aaron Rodgers, and then Justin Fields coming into a year of kind of make or break. Prove that you are an NFL quarterback, and the Bears got rolled. Tyler, Jordan Love. Wow, Jordan Love. He looked good.
He looked great.
245 and 3 touchdowns. I mean, he was rolling. I was pleasantly surprised in the Packers' performance on Sunday, and the Packers should feel pretty good about this season going. I mean, the Vikings lost. Obviously, they beat the Bears, and they're going to have to worry about the Giants, or not the Giants, but the Lions. But I don't know. It could be kind of a fun season in Green Bay.
Yeah, that's literally what I was going to say is Jordan Love was rolling in this game. He looked so comfortable in the offense all day to throw. Just spreading the ball around. And honestly, Justin Fields didn't look that way. He had bright spots. He looked a little sloppy, took some sacks that he probably shouldn't have, but I think they'll find their way and become a, above average team, if not better. They'll certainly be better than last year. I think they were worse in the league last year, but that's a tough loss, to go to Soldier Field and be like, all right, this is our time. The Packers are done. Aaron Rodgers is out of Green Bay. He no longer owns us. And, this is a new chapter. Like, the Packers don't own us. And guess what? They probably do. Because that's what that was. That was just domination.
Yeah. I'm almost ready to throw in the towel in the Justin Fields experiment.
Really?
I don't buy it.
Okay.
I don't see it. And I think that, unfortunately the Bears are going to be starting back at square one very soon. Hopefully I'm wrong. So the Rams and Seahawks, we talked about this game, specifically with the Rams really not knowing what to make of them this season. They had an injury-ridden season in 2022 and were, awful due to that. And, you came into this season and I'm not really sure, but they're facing the Seahawks, who were a pleasant surprise. Geno Smith had a resurgence to his career, and the Rams, they had their way with the Seahawks.
Yeah, I think Geno Smith had 180 yards. I mean,
yeah, no. He had 112 yards in the air.
There you go.
Yeah, he did not have a good day, but the Rams defense was good. Matt Stafford looked good. He didn't get into the end zone, but he had over 300 yards. There was 3 rushing touchdowns, and the Rams just, I don't know if that's how the Rams are going to play, then that NFC West division could be pretty fun.
Yeah, and that could be a case of, the coaches know each other and in division, but not a good start for the Seahawks either.
No, especially in Geno Smith's case, because I root for that guy, and to kind of see him come out and basically lay an egg was disappointing. So we'll kind of see if he bounces back, but very surprised at that outcome. 17-point win by the Rams. So Sunday Night Football was another division matchup between the NFC East foes. The Dallas Cowboys went into New York and mollywopped the Giants, Tyler. 40-0. This was a game that you could have turned off at the midway through the second quarter. It was ugly, and the Cowboys defense just had their way with the Giants.
It was embarrassingly bad.
Yeah. Yep.
40-0.
Yep. 40-0, 2 defensive scores for the Cowboys, and whew, just, another team with promise opening up your season, just getting thumped at home is deflating.
Yeah, because the first couple drives, I was like, okay. I think even though the first drive or the second drive was like a interception or fumble or something, there was still some bright spots where I was like, all right, Daniel Jones, like, he might, he's got something here. Like maybe he does earn that contract. And then it's just like, oh no, everything's falling apart around them.
Yeah.
Saquon is obviously their best player. But yeah, the Daniel Jones of it all, you're just like, okay, like there's something here, and then it's just mistake after mistake, and yeah, very much a team loss. 40-0 is like not an accident.
Yeah, that is everything went bad
Right.
sort of loss.
And again, week
And
1, maybe they got it all out of their system, and they go to back to a mid-tier team and nothing more probably.
you think they're going to run the table?
No.
16-1.
Not quite. 8-9.
Man. Yeah. So that is the kind of the key matchups for the Sunday slate. But I wanna jump into what was considered the most anticipated game of the week. I actually saw that the beginning of Monday Night Football broke a viewership record of like 22.6 million people watching the beginning of Jets and Bills. Obviously, the Jets have Aaron Rodgers as their quarterback, and they have gone all in on their 2023 team, and we're pretty much Super Bowl or bust. And they're getting a test against the division foe, kind of juggernaut Buffalo Bills. And Aaron Rodgers, runs out of the tunnel with the American flag on 9/11, and everybody's just kind of ready to run through a brick wall because
Right.
things are changing in New York, and Aaron Rodgers, their guy, finally takes the field. It's time for the Aaron Rodgers era. 1, 2, 3, 4 plays. Aaron Rodgers takes a sack that really didn't look too terrible, and he,
No.
kind of walks back to the huddle, and then next thing you know, he's sitting on the ground and he's off the field, and then you see him on the sideline being carted off, and x-rays were initially negative, so you're feeling a little bit optimistic about Aaron Rodgers. And the news comes out today that Aaron Rodgers has in fact torn his Achilles and he is out for the season. And I have to say, I am typically just kind of an it is what it is type of person. When injuries happen, I'm kind of a next man up mindset, but that is devastating. And I genuinely I felt so bad for not only
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers, for Jets fans. I'm a big believer in having the best players in the world be on the field, and Aaron Rodgers is in that category. And he didn't even really get a chance to get going this season, and it was really over before it started. And my fear with Aaron Rodgers is that he is 39 years old and now has a major injury. And I'm wondering if we will ever see Aaron Rodgers on the field again. Tyler, was yesterday the end of Aaron Rodgers in the NFL?
Quite possibly. I mean, honestly, yeah, that's even if he comes back at 40, what's he going to be like after a torn Achilles? because that thing popped and you could literally see his calf reverberate. I mean, that is no small thing for a 39-year-old who's about to miss a year, who was already, honestly, before the hard knocks and all this, all this hype, I was like, he's kind of on his way out. He might stick around for a year or two. All this hard knock stuff and all these interviews. There was a really good one Sunday morning. It was like 11:30 before all the games started. He sat down, I think, with like Aaron Andrews or something, and it was such a good interview. It's a really good insight to who he is because he is very egotistical, but he is who he is, and he's like, I also am not getting a fair shot here. He's like, yeah, I am who I am, but he's like, there's a lot of media spin to a lot of my personality and things, and I was, my mind was changed, especially with the Jets being behind him. I mean, it's such a great team, possibly a great team with the defense and like him with that offense. You're like, that's all they need. They need Aaron Rodgers, and now it's all gone. I feel the same way. I felt gutted. I was watching the main feed and the Manning cast, and Peyton was just like, oh, no, this is not happening. He's just in disbelief. They cut to like the blue tent and he's like getting on the cart and he's like, what is going on? So that's going to be a tough one to come back from at his age. Especially with the kind of weird guy he is with like the darkness retreat that he went on and stuff like that. Like, does he have the motivation to do it all over again, to rehab and come back? Like so it's very different than a normal younger guy.
Yeah, it's tough. Obviously, future Hall of Famer, first ballot Hall of Famer. I think this is it for Aaron Rodgers. And I hate it because Aaron Rodgers, I think, is really the last guy from
The
Peyton
old
Manning,
guard.
Eli Manning, Tom Brady,
Right.
Ben Roethlisberger, Phillip Rivers.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's somebody I'm missing, but that kind of era of football would essentially be over. So,
Right.
but
I guess I didn't give you an answer, and that's probably because I don't want him. I want to see him back, but that's
I hope he comes
maybe
back.
maybe that I think you're probably more of a realistic answer there. You're probably right. I don't want to see him out of the league. As annoying as he has been on the Packers and as hyped as I was to see him succeed on the Jets, I think it's probably more realistic. Yeah, he probably won't return, but I would like him to return. But I don't. I think that's less realistic or less of a chance to happen, and that's probably what I would want to happen. What probably will happen is, yeah, that probably was it, which is even more depressing. 4 snaps in game 1. That is brutal for the Jets. The
Yeah.
Jets fans.
And I want to say this, and then we'll actually talk about the game.
Oh yeah,
there was
there
a
was a
lot
good
of
game that happened too.
there was a lot of talk of artificial turf.
Mm-hmm.
And this had nothing to do with the artificial turf. This was a calf injury that Aaron Rodgers had that morphed into an Achilles injury. That is what happened. It had nothing to do with turf. This could have happened on grass. This could have happened on dirt. This could have happened wherever. This has nothing to do with the turf. We got to stop with the turf narrative. But anyway, that's just me.
Okay. Well, I was gonna say, I mean, like, it could have happened anywhere. Um, I don't have an opinion on the turf because I don't play the game, but certainly a lot of guys are like, we got to get rid of this stuff. Just have grass. Like, why the heck not?
I'm in the camp of just have grass, but I think it's just kind of low hanging fruit to be like, oh, he was on turf, so get
Oh,
rid of it.
sure.
I just
Well, yeah, I would say, well, look at Alex Smith. I mean, that dude's leg shattered, and because he took the brunt of somebody's, a 300-pound lineman or something, went straight, a perfect, set of circumstances, shattered his leg, all that weight. And that's what happened here. Like perfect, alignment of his leg took the force of that guy tackling him and it popped his Achilles. And that could absolutely happen on grass. Like it's
Oh yeah.
not.
Harrison Butker had a pretty significant injury last season on grass
Right.
due to a planting issue. So anyway, that's just a little rant on grass. So get off my lawn. Um, let's look at the game though. So obviously, Aaron Rodgers is out. Zach Wilson in. I thought for sure that this is pretty much guaranteed that the Bills would win on Monday night, and unfortunately for the Bills, Josh Allen was Tyler. How would you say awful?
Sloppy.
Sloppy.
Sloppy. I mean, he had what, 4? Did he end with 4 interceptions?
He had 3 picks.
He had 3 picks. He almost had a 4th, though.
He almost had a 4th.
You remember that one? I don't remember. It was after the first one, I think. And it was really close. It was another like end zone throw. It's like I don't even think they were in the red zone yet, but it was down there, and they almost picked it again. I think that would have been like the second pick or something. I mean, that again. My point with that is like these aren't accidents either. Like this is who Josh Allen is. There's a stat that like he has 86 turnovers since 2018, leading the league. Like 86. Like come on, man. Like that's something you should have been working on with this guy. And that's another thing. Like he, overall, his game, to answer your question, like he does run a lot and he is extremely talented. But I'm like, man, he puts his body on the line probably more than he should. Because again,
definitely.
he's their only running game.
There was a point yesterday where Aikman, it was late in the game, and Aikman was like, dude, just go down.
Right.
My goodness. And
yeah, there was multiple times where he's leaping over people like 5 feet in the air.
Just go down. Yeah. You're going to get destroyed if you play that way. Yeah. And I love Josh Allen. Like he's a good quarterback, but yeah, he is prone to turnovers. But man, don't get yourself hurt being reckless or trying to be a hero.
Yeah, that should have been a game plan of like, okay, Zach Wilson's in the game. Our defense is going to take care of it. Let's put these guys away and go to week 2. And they were just struggling out there just to make, just a simple completion was like a struggle for them.
Oh, yeah. And Zach Wilson came in and he was fine. But he threw a pick, he threw a touchdown, but he's Zach Wilson. So, but this game ended up going to overtime. Not before Tyler Bass tried to miss a game-tying field goal. He,
oh my God,
hit it off the left upright, and it happened to bounce in. But we take this game into over. Go ahead.
Sorry, when was the Breece Hall 86-yard run?
That was
like the third quarter.
I believe so, yeah. And that was when, and they had to settle for 3 points, right?
Dude, that's why I brought this up. Well, first of all, he's not in shape because you should have ran. That should have been to the house.
He got gassed. Yeah.
That was funny. I'm like, bro, what are you doing? You got to score here. Score for New York, here. That was kind of funny, but I'm like, because I'm cheering the guy on, like, oh my God, why is he slowing down? But then,
he's not trying to.
Right. And then to see the Jets like coward move of like, oh, we're just gonna kick. Like it was like 4th and 4, inside the 10 or inside the 20 or the like 15-ish or something, and I'm like, come on, Jets, like you lost, Aaron Rodgers probably for the season. I was screaming at the TV like, you gotta go for it here. This is not, this is the Bills you're playing. Like they're extremely dangerous. They've taken down, huge games, and you can't be going for 3 here. Like, you just got a freebie, essentially, is my point of, like, you got the huge chunk play to get down here for free, essentially. Go for it. Like, what are we doing? Why are we? And then that's my point, is like, it went to overtime. You should have just went for the touchdown, you know?
Yeah, I agree. But so we get into overtime after Buffalo ties the game on Tyler Bass's field goal, and the Bills start with the ball. They end up having to punt it away. And
It's a 3
Tyler,
and out, wasn't it?
I believe it was a 3-and-out, but they punted away, and Jets rookie, undrafted rookie Xavier Gipson is awaiting the punt, and he returns at 65 yards for a walk-off punt return.
Just classic.
And fantastic ending to a wild game, and happy for the Jets to pull it off for a couple reasons. The Bills lost, number one.
Yeah.
Number two, when you lose Aaron Rodgers, the least you could do is just find a way to win the game. And
For the home crowd.
For the home crowd, and the Jets fans, were able to leave with, a little sliver of something good. And for that, I am happy. And you don't see walk-off punt returns very often. So, and did you hear? And I think it's pretty well documented that I'm very anti-rules analyst on broadcasts. Did you hear the rules analyst, John Perry, what he said? So they were watching the replay, and John Perry said, well, this one's going to come with an asterisk because there was a tripping call that was missed. And
boy.
It was one of the key blocks. And it was not a tripping call. There was just bodies flying and somebody got tripped over, but it was not a leg whip or anything like that. So for a rules analyst to get on there and say that is stupid. And this is my call to just get them out of the booth, because they don't add anything the wrong half of the time. How many times does Jim Nantz go to Gene Steratore and, hey, what do you think about this catch? And Steratore's like, oh, well, there's sunlight between the ball and the player's jersey, so it's not a catch. And then they cut to the referee in the actual game, and he's like, oh, the ruling on the field stands. It was a catch. And you're like, good job, Gene. What are you even doing here?
Thanks for your input there.
I don't get it. Just let them have it. Let them have the win. We don't need to deflate a exciting ending to a game to a non-issue at the end of the day.
I think I'd moved on to the Manning cast at that point of the game. I'm like, I'm good with I switched over and did listen to that last call, but
yeah.
No, I totally agree. The rules analysts typically are useless.
They add nothing. They add nothing.
They're usually wrong, which is your point. It's just sometimes they get it right, where they're like, "Oh, what's going on? Like, why did they do this?" That's nice if they're explaining rules, but when they add their opinion, where they're like, "Oh, this is going to be this call."
That is all they should be doing, is explaining the rule. If it's like a weird situation, you should throw it to them, and they're like, "All right, it's Rule 36 C.1," and get into that. But I don't need them to tell me why they think it's a catch or why it's gonna get overturned or whatever. Just stop.
They do that on the PGA, and it's some of the best part of the broadcast when they have their rules expert on, and he's explaining
the rule.
Right, golf is ridiculous. Golf is a stupid sport, But yeah, they have him on there, and they just starts explaining of like, oh, well, that makes sense. He
Yeah.
makes sense of it all. It's like, here's why this is happening. So
Yeah, exactly. And that's what needs to happen. But as a Chiefs fan, you can kind of take a huge sigh of relief because obviously you dropped your first game. The Chargers lost, the Bengals lost, and the Bills lost.
yep,
So all the teams that you're worried about started 0-1 along with you. So you're not going into week 2 behind. But I will say there's a new foe in town, and I think it's the Miami Dolphins. I think we need to watch out for them.
yeah,
I think Aaron Rodgers' injury pretty much rules out the Jets being any sort of Super Bowl threat or really playoff threat. Maybe they can make it in, but what a wild week 1. And I wouldn't have it any other way as an NFL fan.
exactly.
But yeah, that's week 1. If you don't have anything else to add, Tyler, we can. I think we should take a look at some of the matchups to watch heading into week 2. Eagles and Vikings are gonna square off on the debut of Thursday Night Football on Amazon Prime. Vikings are coming off a loss, and Eagles are good and just beat the
Pretty
Patriots.
good.
So I think if you want to watch probably the best team in the NFC, then that is a game to watch.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that, but the Eagles almost lost against Patriots.
They almost did.
Patriots should have probably won that game, quite honestly.
Patriots had a chance to win at the end, and they didn't.
Yeah, there was 2 key plays where that receiver didn't, and Romo kept saying it, but he's like, he just kept 2 feet in. That game, they would have been up by probably 2 scores if
Yep.
this one receiver would have just got the ball in bounds 2 times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For me, it's honestly, I don't want to say that it's a boring slate of football, but most interesting for me is Bengals Ravens. The Bengals and
Yeah,
Bengals are looking to have a bounce back game, and the Ravens are, they won big against Houston, and they are a team that really has to prove themselves. Lamar Jackson, kind of as weird as it is to say, needs to prove himself that he can stay on the field and lead this Ravens team to a deep playoff run. And a Bengals team that just come off of an ugly loss is a really good test for them. Can you really kind of take advantage of that momentum that you have and go into Cincinnati and win? So I like that matchup. I think Seahawks Lions is intriguing. Seahawks again need to bounce back. This is the Lions home opener, and I think it's going to be an absolutely insane atmosphere in Detroit. This is a fan base that finally has something to be excited about. So it's going to be a tough environment for Seattle. Obviously, Seattle plays in a loud stadium. So if it is as loud as Arrowhead, as Dan Campbell said,
I was
then
just gonna say.
then it'll be interesting for them.
Yeah, he put a call out to the Lions fans, like, be louder than Arrowhead, which I thought was kind of cool.
Yep. Chiefs Jaguars. Listen, this for the Chiefs. It's you're going on the road. Don't be 0-2 at the end of the game. That's
Right.
that's the goal. You should get Travis Kelce back, and Chris Jones will be on the field as well. So you're gonna have 2 of your 3, along with Patrick Mahomes, are gonna have 2 best players back on the field, and hopefully your Chiefs wide receivers have figured out how to catch the football between now and Sunday. I really think that that opening week is a little bit of a fluke with the amount of drops that they had. I don't see that being an issue going into Sunday, and I think that the Chiefs will have no issues hanging with the Jaguars and coming out of there with a win.
I think so. I mean, especially after the Niners game, watching Nick Bosa, they were like, "What's your snap count going to be?" And he's like, "I'm playing every snap." And the dude dominated. There's no reason Chris Jones shouldn't come in with fresh legs.
If
You
Chris
know,
Jones,
he's
if
in
Chris
shape.
Jones
There's
is
no
in
reason he
football
shouldn't
shape,
dominate.
exactly. If he's in football shape like he says he is, he should be out there for 85-90% of the snaps. This shouldn't
Right.
be I'm going to play 50% of the snaps to
No.
get my feet wet. This is you got to go, especially with the incentives that are in his contract. Like he doesn't have time to not play. So I expect him to be out there and I expect him to play football at a really high level this season.
Yeah, you need Kelsey to be fully back. And if not, again, I would say sit him until he's fully healthy. And the rest of the team needs to step up. Because I think this is a Chiefs team that's just like, okay, we should not have lost that. Let's go in and beat this team. There's no way we need to walk away with a loss here. They'll figure it out at the end.
Yeah. So that's what's going on in week 2. Some key matchups to look at. But again, really fun week 1, and we have football every Sunday until mid-February, so soak it all in. Eat your nachos, your wings, enjoy it. It goes by quick, and that is the Football Kingdom podcast. See you next week.